Last year I finished a map. I hammered it, I published it, and at least 1,200 people on the Steam Workshop were interested enough to subscribe to it. But then I got bored. So I started working on a new map, but this time I wanted it to be a little different from the standard flat CSGO layout. So I looked nearby. I took inspiration from St. Paul's Catacombs here in Malta. One, because it's an interesting place with a lot of historical significance, and two, because it's right down the road, and I can get references whenever I need. I really like the underground areas of these catacombs, but obviously they needed to be scaled up a bit in order to work for a CSGO map. The first layout, like any first layout, had the ideas I wanted, but maybe not the best execution. I did some early bot testing, but of course they had a few issues with navigation. Besides that though, they seemed to play pretty well on it. Granted, they're still bots, but they could at least show me where some of the contact points and what the engagements might look like. The layout was kind of looking like I wanted it to, so the next step was to test it out with human players. Not these guys. So I ran my first playtest. I didn't include any clips here because the layout is so different from what it is now, but if you want to check it out, you can watch the whole playtest on Olaf's YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the description.
Go away. Yeah, go here. What the fuck?
What the fuck would be a common theme moving forward.
Oh my god, the knife is so shiny because there is no...
no cube map.
No,
Let's
the
go away.
Which A?
The real A. Not the regular.
Mini-map, eh?
Why can't I go there?
What the fuck?
Nelson, you don't sound...
In the window.
Oh,
Through the window!
I'm really confused.
Oh, these bitches.
I had shit my bad.
Skid.
Pants shitting aside, I got a lot of really good feedback from this playtest. Big complaints were navigation and visibility. So with that in mind, I started making a plan for the next version of the map.
You can do it.
Nice!
No!
This is so sad.
I got so confused.
I tried to break the feedback down area by area in order to build up the bigger picture of how the map was actually playing. Starting with the upper outside area, CTs would take a really long approach up an incline that turned into a headshot angle straight into the contact point, while Ts would do the same but then peek around a 90-degree corner on the side entrance. Just having these two angles kind of made for a boring fight as there wasn't a lot of space or cover to begin with. And on top of that, if CTs pushed, they didn't really have anywhere to fall back to except for one 90-degree corner on the inner wall. Ts were also limited in their cover, but because the vent is such a crucial, or should be crucial, component to the B site, they really needed a lot more help in order to hold that and effectively use it in late round situations. On the lower side, the mid was definitely a big problem area, as there were 5 different angles you had to check in order to move through it. CT lobby, B main, vent, window, and T upper. The T upper area had a lot of the same problems as mid because it was exposed to the same angles as mid, if that makes sense. Both bomb sites were accurately criticized for not having enough cover and being a little bit boring to play on. Both A and B site were largely empty spaces with only the main entrances providing any kind of gameplay elements to them. So the sites are going to be a big point of emphasis in later versions in order to make the gameplay a little more interesting. So those were the main problems, along with a lot of other feedback that I can't really list everything. I had to find a way to fix it. On the outside, I wanted to adjust the routes by bringing the CTs a little more outside and then angling them into the contact point. In order to set this apart from other areas, I wanted to use a sort of dirty Italy theme. I used a similar one in an AIM map I did for Mapping a while back. I like the idea of adding these pillars and really fitting the catacombs Roman style, so I'm really going to go heavy on that in this area. On the T side, I'm also going to bring them outside a little bit, but then directly into the contact point, and I'm hoping the offset angle makes the fight a little more interesting. This should solve 2 problems. 1, the headshot angle on the CT incline, and 2, the annoying 90-degree peak that Ts were having to deal with. I'm going to use a similar theming on the route adjustment, but since we already have the cliffs area on the T-path, I want to keep going with a natural theme in order to differentiate between the two areas. Thinking of adding at least a forest or some kind of green space, just some happy little trees for your happy little CSGO map. The last thing I'll do is expand the playing area a little bit outside, just so there's a little more room to play around the vent. Looking at the underground, the first thing to fix is all the angles in the lower mid that need to be checked. I'm going to start out by removing the window, because this wasn't used so much in the playtest. There were some suggestions to isolate T upper, raising the wall on stairs and blocking it off from the side entrance. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to play, but I don't have any better ideas at this point, so I might implement it and just see how it goes. I'm also thinking of putting a balcony in over B main, just to give another option going into the site instead of being cooked on the stairs. Again, this is going to isolate the side entrance, but maybe that's a good thing because it'll push more gameplay in that direction. On the A site, the first step is cover, but visibility is a huge problem that needs to be addressed.
No idea what the fuck is going on. The map is so confusing.
So like outside, I wanted to start planning the detailing so I have a better idea of how I can differentiate between the different routes. I'm thinking of an ivy type theme with a lot of plants hanging down from the walls all around A site, even the underground, in the hopes that this will better direct players towards the site, or at least they'll know which direction they're going. On B site, I think the first thing to go is the secret area, since it didn't really get a lot of use other than a few retake situations. Again, I'm not sure how that's going to play, but I'll take it away and then we'll test it and see how it goes. The CT path is going to get a little bit of work done also, probably removing the cubby on the side of the stairs, but then also lowering the wall so that there's more angles into the site itself. I'm hoping this will make up for the fact that there's only going to be 2 entrances going into the site, or at least maybe give a little more importance to vent as another way to interact with what's going on below. As far as theming goes, again, I need to differentiate between the different areas. So for the mid, I'm thinking of a cleaner, almost Anubis type stone, and then on B site I might go with a dirtier, darker Aztec, and hopefully that's enough difference to give some intuitive clues as to where players actually are in the map. I really like getting into the detailing of a map because it lets you play around with some of the stories that the environment's telling. So maybe there's a few more secrets in the old secret, but that might be for a later devlog. So that's the plan, but the first step before we can really start fixing is to blow some shit up. I've already been working on this map for about half a year now, and I know there's a long way to go. I'm not sure when or if this map will ever be finished, but at least I know what I'm doing next. And in the meantime, good luck, have fun.